Welcome to Buckeyes tomorrow morning for Saturday, November 2nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Penn State game is today, the game against Michigan in 28 days. We are here at Beaver Stadium, home of the Penn State Nittany Lions and also the site of a titanic struggle. Coming up later today, noon kickoff on Fox, number 3 Penn State, number 4 Ohio State. This is a game that is going to be feels kind of season-defining in a way. At least right now, we'll see. There will be more season-defining games, certainly for Ohio State. This is one for Penn State that feels like this is going to go a long way towards determining if this is another very good but not great Penn State season or potentially a very different and potentially much better Penn State kind of season.
Season-defining, career-defining, is a little bit is that too far? Maybe. But you don't want to lose this one. Both teams believe they've got the opportunity. They know they have the opportunity to get the win. Somebody is going to leave this game upset, angry, disillusioned, and very, very doubted afterwards.
And I think the team that wins this game this is a lot, I think, like the Oregon-Ohio State game a couple weeks ago, where the team that wins this game in the 12-team playoff era, to have a win over another top 5 opponent, especially in Ohio State's case, a road win over a top 5 opponent, that feels like that's going to be something that functionally the winner of this game is probably basically in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I would agree. It would take an upset to get knocked out at this point. So you get the win, and for Penn State, their schedule is
snacky cake?
Yeah, very much so. So they can go ahead and make their reservations if they haven't already, if they win this one. Ohio State, you still have the Indiana game, but you'll be favored in that. You'll be expected to win. Will you? We'll see. But this is the first big step to Indianapolis. As they say, all roads to Indianapolis go through State College.
They will say that this week, at least. The winner of this game not only has a likely ticket punch to the college football playoff, they are certainly one of the front runners to be playing in Indianapolis alongside the Oregon Ducks. So a lot on the line in this game. There's a bunch of injury questions, and I feel like we've sort of started to get some of the answers to those. Friday there was reporting that Drew Aller, we had sort of seen video of him kind of running around on the practice field earlier in the week, and it was like, that looks a lot like a guy who's going to play. And then there was reporting on Friday from On3 and other sources that Drew Aller does look like he's going to play. I wonder how that impacts what Ohio State's game plan is going into this game, because it feels like if you have to deal with Drew Aller and Bo Pribula, that might complicate things a little bit.
Yeah, and if Drew Aller was going to be, if he was never hurt, they were still going to have to prepare for both quarterbacks, because that's what Penn State does. With Drew Aller, I think one of the questions is, okay, he's good enough to play, but is that 85%? Is that 95%? What kind of attack do they come after him with, knowing that he's not entirely healthy? Because they know he's not healthy. They know he's healthy enough to play.
Yeah.
But he might have some issues where maybe does that make Ohio State more aggressive in defending him, or does it make him more passive because they just want to see what he can do before they find out for sure? So I think the questions that Ohio State has, they've had for a while in terms of how do we defend both, what's the best course of action. I think one of the bigger questions is Bo Pribula being able to throw the ball last week more than he's ever done and throw it successfully against Wisconsin. That might change some minds on what they need to expect when he's in the game, because he's the running guy, but he threw the ball pretty well last week.
Yeah, and if he is a multi-dimensional threat, as you saw last week at Wisconsin, he was something like 11 for 13 in that game. If he's a multi-dimensional threat, then the question is Drew Aller a multi-dimensional threat? Because Aller is traditionally very much a pocket passer. Last week against Wisconsin, before he got hurt, he had a couple scrambles. It was not, this is not ripping off 80 yards Khalil Tate style by any means, but it was 5 yards, 8 yards, enough to turn a 1st and 10 into a 2nd and 2, which is a big deal in a game that could be as tight as this one. You wonder how much the knee injury that he suffered last week might impact his ability to do that. If he goes back to being more one-dimensional, Bo Pribula may be more of a threat than Drew Aller is. We will see. On the Ohio State side of things, the injury questions are on the offensive line. Ryan Day said on Wednesday that Zen Michalski was trending towards not being able to play. We'll have the official availability report on Saturday morning for you. Should be able to drop that about 9 a.m. But assuming to take Ryan Day at his word, and I certainly looked at Zen Michalski coming off the field on the cart at the end of last week's game and thought he's not playing in Penn State. So it's probably safe to take Ryan Day at his word on this. there's a bunch of different configurations to the offensive line that they could go with. What are you expecting on Saturday?
Well, I think in a place like this, you want to go with your most experienced offensive line. And if that's the case, then you're talking Donovan Jackson at left tackle. And Ryan Day was not interested in giving out any of the plans. He said, we'll show everybody on Saturday. But you've got guys who have started. Donovan Jackson, throw him at left tackle. Last year's starting center, Carson Hinsman, 12 career starts. Perhaps he's at left guard for you, and then you've got your regular starter at center. You've got your regular starter at right guard. You've got your regular starter at right tackle. All kinds of experience for guys who have been in big games and played and been in hostile environments. Experienced, I think, when you talk about Carson Hinsman, a guy that has played center, so he has to be able to handle, he has to be intelligent enough and athletic enough to handle that position, which means you can also do pretty much anything on the interior. So I'm interested to see if that's the way they go. But we've seen Austin Siereveld play, splitting time at left guard. Right guard. We saw Luke Montgomery come in to be that backup left guard when Donovan Jackson kicked out to left tackle. So they've got options. What they need is their best option, and for me, that's the most experienced option.
Yeah, I look at a situation like this. It is not a primetime game, but it is going to be a loud and very hostile environment. We were here 2 years ago, and it was a noon game, but it gets loud in there. It's not a whiteout, but boy, there are a lot of people being very loud and shaking white pom-poms, so you would be forgiven for thinking it looks a lot like a whiteout and sounds a lot like a whiteout. So yeah, I think I'm with you. When you look at how college football coaches approach things, it is generally reduce the variance as much as you can. What is the surest way to get a at least passable, solid performance? And if you can avoid having someone making their third or first collegiate start, and you have a veteran option there who started 12 games last season, boy, it feels a lot to me like that's what you might think about doing.
Especially after watching Zen Michalski in his first career start last week, and you saw 2 weeks of practice where you felt like he was your best option, and then the game is real, and it looks a lot different than apparently what it looked like in practice.
Ryan Day also this week talked about the three factors that were maybe going to be determining the outcome of this game. One of them is the run game. Who can run the ball better? And Ohio State has really struggled to run the ball the last couple of weeks. It's obviously going to be a different offensive line. Will it be a better offensive line? We'll see. It'll be a different offensive line. And that's, I think there were a lot of people asking for it. I saw a lot of it can't possibly get any worse kind of thoughts, which is almost never true.
Yeah.
It can always get worse. But with the Ohio State offensive line, with the Ohio State running backs who were not able to hit a bunch of big ones last week, or even the week before, how well do you expect Ohio State to be able to run the ball against Penn State? Because the Penn State defensive line is pretty solid. We'll see. Dennis Sutton is still up in the air. His status, I have thought all week, much more likely that Allard plays than Dennis Sutton plays.
Yeah.
But we'll see. That could be an impact in terms of the pass rush and pass pro for Ohio State. How are you expecting Ohio State to be able to hold up again in the run game?
Reports the last couple of days in practice have been good in terms of the offensive line and the ability to run the ball. I still want to see it.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting, am I expecting 100 yards rushing? I don't think I am, it's dangerous territory on the road against a good defense and an offense that can do some things, but also I don't expect a lot of running from either team. This one's going to be close enough where I don't know that the winner of the running battle is what decides this. I think it's the winner of the other battles that will decide it.
Well, the other battles that Brian Day singled out were the turnover battle and the explosive plays battle. You could see Ohio State running for 80 yards, but they hit three big ones in the pass game. I mean, that's basically what they did last week against Nebraska, was a couple long ones in the pass game, and that got them most of the way towards winning the game. And they certainly have the explosive plays and the talent to make the explosive plays. And you look at Penn State, and Penn State's secondary is good, but it's not necessarily quite up to the standard of some of the recent secondaries. I know Ryan Day wants to run the ball, but it feels like there's a real possibility that if they can throw and they can hit enough of those explosives, that might make a whole lot of other stuff not matter.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last week with 2 receptions for 100 yards, 2 pass plays for 100 yards. Like that's as good as running the ball for 100 yards, Tom, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, the yards count the same, as it turns out.
Exactly, and the points count the same as well. So if you can get some of those chunk yardage plays, that eliminates the need to have been able to run efficiently for those 40 yards. And so but also you don't have to get explosive plays just through the air. They did not have any explosive plays really in the ground game last week. They did against Oregon. We know the potential is always there with both Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility that one of those guys also hits one, because they're always capable of doing so.
Well, and the last time Ohio State was here, they were down in the fourth quarter, and it was like oh boy, this is a season-defining drive, and Travion Henderson ripped off a long run, and boom, game over. You can get bottled up for most of the day, and you hit one big one on the ground, and you hit a couple through the air, and you're into the 20s. And this feels to me like a game that, if you're in the 20s, you get a pretty good shot to win this game. I don't know what the over/under is, but it feels to me like one where 21 points might get you there, 28 points probably get you there, and 35 points absolutely get you there.
Yeah, 35 points and somebody's getting fired. The other head coach, like, how could this happen? But I don't know what the over-under is. I'm probably going to say like 42, 43, something like 46 and a half. Okay.
All right.
I went under on mine, just barely.
I did too, yeah.
But, if you can get to 28, I mean, start the bus. I think, unless it's multiple overtimes, I just don't see a 31 to 34-31 type of game here.
Yeah, and I all week was thinking 20-17 someone, and I think I might have ended up picking 21-17. But I mean, it just feels a lot like you're right in that range where one play, the margins in this game are going to be so close. It feels like, and Ohio State's played a bunch of those games in recent years, and they've come up short in a number of them. It feels like a lot of those close games, it's a one-score game in the final quarter, and you're one play one direction or other from someone, the winner of the game swinging on one play. Ohio State has come up short in a number of those. Michigan last year, Missouri last year was certainly sort of in that boat. Oregon this year, another one, very, very close game. This is one where you don't want to talk about legacy, because this is a game that if Ohio State wins, then it's just kind of everyone goes on to the next one, but can they beat Indiana? And a sentence we all thought we were going to be saying this time of year earlier in the season. It's not a legacy game, but I think it feels like it's a narrative game for both of these coaches, because Ryan Day's had some close losses. Ryan Day doesn't lose to bad teams. When he loses, it's close games to good teams for the most part. James Franklin, when he loses, it's to Ohio State or Michigan, and that's kind of it. And so one of these coaches is going to pick up a really big narrative win and a really big win in terms of their resume for this season as well.
Yeah, and the thing, the irony with the narrative thing is that somebody has to win it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really change necessarily, or shouldn't alter any kind of narrative, but it will. Certainly, whoever loses this is going to be destroyed for it. I do think James Franklin would be destroyed less, because it's just understood that this is kind of what happens here. For Ryan Day to lose to a team that he hasn't lost to before would be very detrimental in terms of that narrative. But then again, as we know, 10-2 is probably still going to get you in which case then anything is possible. But it's not going to go well in the land of Ohio State for Ryan Day if they lose this one.
So what did you end up picking for your score projection?
I went 24-20 or 24-21 Ohio State. And now that I'm saying that out loud, it feels a little high. But we'll see. There's enough skill players here to do some damage, and I don't think either defense has look like they are unstoppable or non-stoppable, Tom.
Yeah, I went 21-17, so I'm glad you feel that I'm correct. Again, Ohio State. I entered the week thinking, I think I'm going to pick Penn State, and just kept waiting through and then, Lathan Ransom being back. That felt like a big, and he's not officially back, but Ryan Day made it sound like he's probably back earlier in the week. That feels like that's going to be an impactful piece. if they can get the offensive line sorted out, that feels like that's going to be an impactful piece. Not having, potentially, we'll see, maybe not having denied Dennis Sutton, that could help the Ohio State offensive line a little bit. All this stuff is just, it's all real little fine margin stuff. But in the game, that's probably going to come down to one play at the end of the game. Ohio State just feels like it's like just a little bit more talented than Penn State, and it's going to be a hostile, loud crowd. That's going to work in Penn State's favor. It's a noon game, not a night game. You always say 3 points for home field advantage. I know I've heard people say 5, 6 points for the whiteout. Well, if it's 5 or 6 points in prime time for the whiteout, maybe it's like 4 at noon for this stadium, and that might be the difference. I mean, it's just, you're talking real fine margins, but it should be a heck of a college football game. I know Ohio State fans were not thrilled about the outcome of the Oregon game, but man, that was a good college football game. This should be a really good college football game on Saturday as well. Really looking forward to that, and really looking forward to having full coverage for you, dear viewer and listener, at BuckeyeHuddle.com and, of course, at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. We will be back here on Saturday morning with our pregame show. Let you know once we get the official availability report, who can go, who can't go, all that good stuff. We'll have our pregame show, and then, of course, we'll have our live postgame show. Talked about all the narratives that are going to be swirling around this game. Oh boy, will there be stuff to talk about on that postgame show. Win or lose for both of these teams. Man, is there going to be some stuff to talk about. We'll be at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle all afternoon talking about all that stuff. Live interviews with players and coaches, and analysis, all that good stuff, all at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Please make sure you are subscribed there. Hit that bell so you get notified when we go live so you don't miss a thing. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.